I came from the mud. There's dirt on my hands. Strong like a tree. There's roots where I stand. Oh, I've been running from the law. Try to catch me howling at the moon.
Hi folks, Scott Perkins along with Seth Perkins, the Bearded Butchers. Today we're going to be taking one of the classics and we're going to tell you how we're going to take meat from, let's say, at this point in the season you've got meat in the freezer from last year and you're starting to think about opening day, and it's time to take and turn that into something that's delicious and it's going to be a big hit, and that's summer sausage. So we've got venison here that was vacuum sealed, put in the freezer, and we're going to show you all the steps you need to make summer sausage. So today, because we're using venison, we've also got pork fat. Now the great thing about this is we've got all the equipment here that you're going to need, home production equipment, and since we work in the commercial environment, the thing that's really great about this is these are similar products that we use every day in a commercial environment, but they're made for you guys at home. Madewithmeat.com, we're gonna put a link in the description. You can get the grinder, this is a 32. You can get the 15-pound sausage stuffer, and you can get the 50-pound meat mixer. Those three pieces of equipment are essential to this process because with summer sausage, we want that familiar tang that you get with summer sausage. And the only way that you get that is with citric acid. So today we're going to be talking about all the steps that we need to take to turn out some incredible summer sausage using what you've cleaned out of the freezer, the meat equipment, and we're going to take it all the way through the process of going onto the Traeger smoker.
There's no better feeling heading into, whether it's the outdoors, maybe you're going on a backpack hunt, maybe it's in the western states, you're going to head to that tree stand this fall in the midwestern states. There's no better feeling in the world knowing that the animals that you harvested last season, you use the entire animal. We certainly don't want to see anything go to waste. And one way that's guaranteed that you can waste product is by leaving it in the bottom of your freezer, and things get freezer burnt and you end up, hopefully not, but sometimes discarding it. We don't like to see that happen, so this is the best way to do it. Use up those items in your freezer from last season. That way going into this year, you're good to go. Plus, you can take a big hunk of summer sausage with the tree stand with you.
That's right.
No better feeling. So let's get started.
Yeah, so these have been vacuum sealed and frozen, and it's essential throughout this process that your meat stays cold. So the great thing about vacuum sealing, we use the chamber vac from meat to vacuum seal everything here. We actually did 4 5-pound bags and then 2 2.5-pound bags. That's really nice because we've already got it segmented out. And the great thing about vacuum sealing, when you put it in the freezer, it's going to stay perfect the entire time that's in your freezer. Freezer burn is, the meat's still safe, but really what it is, it's severely dehydrated because freezers are a low humidity environment. So by vacuum sealing, the meat stays perfect. You can leave it in there, and sometimes we put it up just like this so that way we can pull it back out. If we went through the beef sticks the deer sticks faster than the summer sausage, we can pull this back out and get started with making summer sausage if we have plenty of the sticks left. So vacuum sealing, it's a great way to hold it in your freezer.
We have had people comment on our videos and say that we talk too much throughout the videos. We hope that you don't think that, because we want to explain everything possible in depth. That way when you watch one of our videos, you get the best education you can for a process like this. So that's why we talk like we do.
All right, so like I mentioned, we want everything super cold. So this stuff's still partially frozen. And whenever we cube this up, we make it, what we know is gonna go through that grinder. Now that being the 32, it's gonna eat this stuff up really fast. 1.5 horsepower grinder. If you were using the 1/2 horsepower grinder, you would really want, you know, chunks we like to say about golf ball size. In this case, I guarantee you this piece of equipment is going to have no trouble. So there's our lean meat. We like 20% fat ratio when we're working with wild game. Fat is flavor. You've heard that all your life. It certainly is true. So by adding this pork fat in here, we're really going to bring that juiciness and that flavor into our summer sausage. All right, now that we've got our meat and our fat all broke apart, super cold, it's here in our meat tub. Want to talk about our spices. Guys, our Bearded Butcher blend seasoning, we love it. You know we do. We say use it on everything. You certainly can use it in a recipe like this. You use the normal ratio that we talk about. In this case, I would be using 12 ounces for 25 pounds of meat. However, we have those spices because we made them. We're, you know, traditionally butchers. We've worked with spices our whole life. In this case, we want like classic summer sausage. So that's going to require the salt, the pepper, the onion powder, the mustard powder. That's what we've got mixed up here. We're going to give you the recipe. We'll either put a link to a blog post in the description or we'll put the full recipe in the description. We've also got some fresh minced garlic and hickory smoke powder, all natural hickory smoke powder. You might say that's cheating. I'm telling you, especially with game meats, you want to knock people's socks off. And the way you do it is like this. Now this is going to go on the smoker. It's going to have beautiful color. It's going to have great flavor. This makes a big difference. Now, if you don't want to blend these up yourself, you can find packs like this on Amazon. Here's the smoke powder. Here's the summer sausage seasoning. Both of those are made by Legs Old Plantation Seasoning. They've been in the business for years. So you can go to one of these online platforms like Amazon. You can purchase that. It's already going to be put up for you. The two things that we're not going to put in yet are encapsulated citric acid and our sodium nitrate, our pink cure. Encapsulated citric acid, it's citric acid that's encapsulated in cottonseed oil. The reason that we use that and the reason that it's encapsulated is when that goes into our meat, it's going to act as a cure accelerator and it's going to change the pH of the meat. Now with summer sausage, traditionally summer sausage was a fermented product. You made it in the winter, you could carry it around. It was shelf stable, you could carry it around in the hot summer months. That's why it's called summer sausage. And summer sausage has to have that tang, in my opinion, for it to be called summer sausage. That's what the citric acid is going to do. It is going to lower our pH. Really, to get shelf stability, you need a pH that's 4.5 to 5.2. We're not going to measure the pH. We're not going to say this is shelf stable. We're really just going for that tang. So that's why we're adding the encapsulated citric acid. And then the sodium nitrate, the pink cure, you can also use celery juice powder. However, when working with game meats, because of bacteria that could be present in the meat, we like to use the sodium nitrite. And then with using the citric acid, we can go straight into the smoker. It's going to act as a cure accelerator. So what happens is bacteria is a single cell organism. It will use up all its energy fighting those two off, and you're going to have a safer product at the end of the day. So these two are going to get set aside. We don't mix those in until we get to the last step of our mixing process. What we like to do though is we like to mix our spices into our actual trimmings. And the reason we do that is when we put this through the grinder, it's going to have an incredible blend all through that grinder. I'm telling you, I wish we had smell-o-vision invented, because you'd be loving it. So I'll put this in my meat tub. I'll just hand mix it just to get it evenly coated, and then we'll grind it through, and it's going to really blend that flavor into the meat. All right, it's time to start grinding. I like to start a little bit down in there. We don't want that grinder to sit there too long and turn. And since we hand blended this, you've heard me say this before in our other videos, kind of like the cat paw method, where I'll just, I'll put it up there and I let the grinder work through it at its own pace rather than force anything down the grinder. You've got a plunger here if needed. Of quite frankly, I doubt if I'll even need that. So I'm grinding first through a 10 millimeter plate, 10 millimeter being very close to 3/8 of an inch. We're gonna grind this twice. Once through the 3/8 inch plate or the 10 millimeter plate, once through a 4.5 millimeter plate, which close to 3/16 or 1/8 of an inch. And as you can see, I can just barely keep up with this 32, number 32 grinder. All right, step one is complete. I couldn't keep up. It was grinding so fast. And if you've ever done this with a smaller, older grinder, which, I mean, our grandfathers had to do this stuff, our grandmothers did this stuff by hand. And here we have a great piece of equipment like this. Makes it super easy to get the job done professionally. This equipment comes with a limited lifetime warranty against any manufacturer's defects. Obviously, you have to take care of it. And if you have some in the worm like that, we'll get that on the second grind. That's not a big deal. So I'm going to change this. I've got a handy storage tray under here. I'm going to change this to my 4.5 millimeter. I've got a recessed slot under there that slides into. You don't even need tools. That's the great thing about it. Thread that back on. I'm going to switch my tubs out and we're ready for our second and final grind. Beam me up, Scotty.
He said he wanted some help, so I figured I'd volunteer to turn
flip the button.
I'll turn the grinder on.
I couldn't keep up with the first run.
You ready?
Yeah. Once again, back into our second grind. This is where you can really employ the cat paw method. You get little balls and just kind of paw it in there. Let the grinder absorb the product so you don't plug up that worm, which quite frankly, I don't think we'll have an issue. Meat is still super cold. Grinding perfect. I think I used it once just because I had a piece that was a little bit bigger. So that worked perfect. Our second grind is done. This meat's starting to get a little bit tacky, which is good because we're starting to get protein extraction, which we're going to get even more of in the next step. So the great thing about this piece of equipment is I'm going to take the grinder head off and I'm going to marry the mixer that's behind me up to this piece of equipment, and it's going to do all of our mixing for us so that we can get all the time right, which is very critical when you're making summer sauces. You don't want to overwork the product. Even through the grinding process, if your grinder is not up to par, what's going to happen is at this point in the process, this meat's going to start to smear really badly, and what will happen is what we refer to in the meat industry is it will fat out. The protein won't bind to the fat. Those two will separate, and you're going to get a really crumbly summer sausage. So it's essential you have a quality piece of equipment. You could continue to grind. However, we like this part because the meat's still nice and super cold. And then we're going to use the mixer to get a little bit more protein extraction out of this and turn out a better quality product. So I take off that portion of it, and I can just set this aside for a minute, and I'll get my mixer and I'll show you how it hooks up right up to the grinder right here. All right, there's a set screw with an indentation in here. You may actually have to turn your paddle just slightly to get the spine to line up.
Sort of like a PTO on a tractor.
Yep. I'm going to turn my set screw back on, hold everything in place, and we'll get started with our mixing process. So a couple things to point out with the mixing process. We're going to add 2 pints, which is 32 ounces of cold water. Because we have the fat in here, we're going to get great moisture. However, if you're doing a very lean, game only, you're not adding any pork fat, you're going to want to do as much as 2 quarts of water because it's going to be much drier. So we're going to load our hopper with our grindings. We're gonna add 2 pints of water, which I have 2 16-ounce water bottles, so that's gonna be perfect, ice cold water.
You only have one. Cause I
have
I drank one, so I'll go get you another one.
I can't take this guy anywhere. I have 1 16, and I'll get another one. He'll get another one. So I'm gonna load the hopper, and I'm gonna put the cure in right when I start the mixing process. So there's 25 pounds into our mixer. All right, so important step. For every minute you mix one direction, you wanna mix in the opposite direction for a minute. We're gonna do a total of 8 minutes. So I'm just gonna start forward, put in my sodium nitrite, my 32 ounces, splash a little on that guy of water. "37 seconds in, and we'll just wait till we get to the 1 minute mark. We'll go back in the other direction. And that's what's great about having the ability to reverse. And what that is going to help us with is our protein extraction. And way that we'll know we're getting good protein extraction is that we're going to start to see this meat get tacky. Safety first, manufacturer recommends that you keep the lid on while you're mixing, because if you put your hand in there, bad things happen. So just bear that in mind. All right, last minute, so it's time for the encapsulated citric acid. The reason why you don't want to add this too soon is that it will rupture because it's encapsulated. So all right, now that we're done mixing, we can just pull this tab right here on the side. This dumps right over top of our tub. We'll turn this on, spill this right out. Looks like that's all the paddle is gonna give me. I am gonna disconnect it from the power source. Always a good idea with this type of stuff as we clean out the rest of the hopper.
You can see that tackiness that we talk about, where you start to mix those proteins and they start to bind.
And that's one reason why we wear the gloves too, not just for hygiene, which I should point this out. This is wild game. This is not for sale. So we're not wearing the beard protection today. But the gloves make it really nice, because if you start touching this equipment, which is very easy to clean, but if you start touching it with the protein extracted meat, it's really gonna stick on there and make it harder. So we changed the gloves in between handling the meat, but also we don't wanna take and touch a piece of equipment, get it dirty. So you zip the gloves off, disconnect everything, pretty much ready to go.
It's time for the stuffer.
So we're getting so close. Got this mixture right here. We've soaked our casings. These are 2.5 inch by 20 inch. They're gonna hold like what, 2.5 pounds?
2.5 to 3 pounds, depending on how full you make them and where you tie them and things like that.
Seth's an expert at that, so he's gonna be working on that. This 15-pound tub, I think we're gonna fill it and we're gonna stuff it, and then the remaining portion, which would be 10 pounds, we're gonna add a couple of extra ingredients, because you might have some ideas what they are.
A little surprise for you.
But a way to enhance your summer sausage.
So before you get started stuffing, don't forget a couple C-clamps on your stuffer. C-clamp them to your table. Makes a real nice sturdy base. That way when you're getting that crank going, you don't have to worry about your stuffer tipping off your table. And we should mention, you can see that this meat has started to turn just slightly dark, maybe almost like a brownish color. And that's the nitrite starting to work in the meat. And then you'll see at the end when we're finished smoking this product, it's going to be a real nice cherry red. So don't be alarmed by the brownish color at this point in the process.
So I'm going to load this up, and I'm going to squish it a little bit to let the air out. But we're going to talk to you about the air pockets that, in the actual stuffing tube. This has an airlock on it that will push down on it. It's going to let that air out of there.
So there it is, the 15-pound meat stuffer. Well, let's just go ahead and get started. And you can see right here on the top of this, there's an airlock, and you'll see that push up as I crank this handle. So when that pushes up, what I can do is we don't want any air inside this tube. So I can press this, and it'll release any air that might get caught in there. You can hear it, it'll just kind of like a releasing the air on a tire. And you can see now our meat is starting to come through the stuffing horn. This is a very, very handy stuffing horn because it's clear. So I can see where the meat starts and where it stops. But and what I've done is I've gone ahead and just cut some butcher string. And we're going to use these to tie off the ends of our casing. You can use hog ring pliers with a clamp. They make automatic machines and things like that, but we're going to use the strings today because this is the easiest thing for people to get a hold of. It's the least expensive, so that's just what we're going to do. So what you want to do is you want to get your casing and you want to get it on the horn all the way up to the end, and then we will just start turning our handle, pushing or extruding that product right into the casings, keeping your hand, your thumb and your forefinger tight against the horn as you go, because that's going to fill that casing, and you don't want any air pockets inside the casing as you go. If you wind up with an air pocket, when you slice it, it'll have a big indentation in it, and the presentation is just not as nice. So what we typically do is we get down here towards the end, and we're going to leave a couple inches of casing. Everything's pretty tight all the way through. At this point, what we want to do is we want to take our stuffer and we want to go back a couple turns. And if you go back a couple turns, it'll take the pressure off of your plunger. That way, when you remove your casing, the meat doesn't continue to squirt out the horn. So here, we're just going to twist it, give it a couple turns. We're going to take our string. What I like to do is kind of use my apron or my hip, and once I do that, I can let go, and that casing sort of folded underneath. So now all I do is simply make one tie and then a knot, pull it tight, and there you have a tube of summer sausage ready to go in the smoker. So we're going to go ahead and just continue filling our tubes until this stuffer is empty, and then we'll fill it up again till we run out of meat. You could do quite a bit of product in one day. I would say with the equipment that we're using today and the tools, you could easily do 100, 150, 200 pounds of sausage, especially if you get some friends over, some family members. You make a day out of it because, you know, at the end of the day, that's what this is all about. Good food, family, faith, and the outdoors. We're big believers.
You guessed it. Dried jalapenos, high temp cheddar cheese. This is easy enough to find. If you want extra jalapeno flavor, you can add dried jalapeno powder as well. We're just going to do the dried jalapenos, the high temp cheddar cheese, and we're going to hand mix it. So we can just sprinkle it on top of our mixture, about half. Same with the cheese. And you can use different ingredients. You can use fresh ingredients too if you want to use fresh jalapenos, really any pepper you want. But we'll just kind of fold that in there and mix it by hand at this point. Meat, you know, you got to be careful with it, especially when you're doing some of these, you know, this advanced processing, because you can't overwork it or else it'll kind of fight back with you. That's why it's great to have equipment that works with you, not against you. So in this case, I'm just using this to fold this in by hand because if you were making a whole batch, you could have added the cheese and jalapenos any point during the mixing. Well, the cheese you want to put it later in the mixing process because you don't want to abuse that cheese and get it to. Here's a little pro tip. If you got something like that in the corner, grab a ball of meat, sucks it right up, fold it into the mixture. because who doesn't want to slice open? And I do that same thing to just grab everything out of my tub. Grab a ball of meat. It works kind of like when you were playing with Play-Doh as a kid. Now that I've got this ready to go, oh man, who's ready to just slice open a summer sausage, see the cross cut of those jalapeños and that cheddar cheese? It's all about the food.
I'm ready.
That's right.
You can do it all at one shot. It's like an ice cream cone.
There's a saying about, can you fit so much of something
in a 10-pound bag?
We'll get there.
I already know that the cheddar and jalapeno is going to be my favorite.
For sure.
Let's release some of that air. Now, what I think we should do, Scott, is make out some tags and put some tags on the tops of these. That way we know which ones have cheese and which ones don't.
All right, stuffed up, ready to go out to the smoker, and you know it. It's going to be the Traeger 885 today. Same grill that we use, same smoker that we use for nearly everything. We love that model. So we're just going to lace them up and head for the smoker. Got sausages.
Let's do it.
Traeger 885, sweet blue smoke puffing out of there. It's been at 165. That's what we preheated to. It's in super smoke mode, and it's going to do an absolute brilliant job on our summer sausage. We're going to set it at 165 for probably 2 hours. He always likes to boss me around. 2 hours at 165, 2 hours at 185. We'll stair step it up then to 205 if we have to. Gonna put the meat probe right in the center on that one. And we're gonna let them smoke in that beautiful sweet blue. Hickory pellets on the Traeger today. Probably ran, no exaggeration, 100 bags of pellets through this particular model of grill. This 885 in the last 18 months or so without a single issue. We've used and abused this grill, and it's done awesome for us.
Cool. So we're going to let them smoke. We're going to watch the temperature from the app on our phone. And it's what time? It's about 3:40 in the afternoon here on a Friday. So we're actually going to finish out the day here at the store. We're going to close the shop. We're going to go home, grab some dinner, watch the temp from the app on our phone, and then get the kids and the family, come back in, and check on the summer sausage. See you soon. We're back. It's the moment of truth. The summer sausage has been on the Traeger, the Ironwood 885, for about 5 hours. We've met temp of 155 to 156 on our probe.
Hey, check this out real quick. We're dialed in dead zeroed at 205. Check out the pellet burn. We haven't touched it. So like we mentioned, we like to stair step 165 for 2 hours, 185 for 2 hours, and then 205 until we reach our internal temp.
You heard it. You ready to see it?
I am.
Here goes.
Oh my goodness.
Look at that.
They look amazing.
Not shriveled up at all. Perfect. Perfect chubs of summer sausage. So at this point, we're going to take them out. We're going to dunk them in an ice bath. And we're going to get the temp to drop down to about 80 degrees.
Yeah, so the ice bath, you can do the same thing by spraying these. It's just going to take you a lot longer. The idea with the ice bath is we want to set the casings and prevent any shriveling. And then we also want to halt the cooking process. So by dropping these in this ice bath, we want to reduce the temperature, like Seth said, by about half. So we want to bring these down to about 80 degrees internal temp. Should take about 10 to 15 minutes. After that, they can go into the cooler or fridge.
So here's the deal. This just goes to show you that if you own the right equipment, you can produce a product like this at home. You know, if you go to the grocery store, shop, wherever, something like this, you know, you section this out, this might end up costing you 30, 40, 50 bucks depending on the species, sometimes more. Make that initial investment with the equipment. Yeah, there's some upfront costs, but over time, it's gonna pay for itself. Plus, you get the enjoyment spending time with your family, spending time with your friends, get that meat out of the freezer that, you know, from last season, turn it into a product like this for the whole family and your friends to enjoy. So we highly recommend check out Meat, Made with Meat. Their equipment is incredible. We loved every second using it, and it turned out some fantastic product.
Not to mention the pride and the joy that comes along with harvesting something and then being able to produce a product that you share with family and friends that tastes like it was professionally done, but you did it at home because you took the knowledge that we gave you here, you married it with that equipment, and you produced a product that is unlike anything you could ever buy because you have that personal pride and joy in the fact that you produced it and you made it.
And here's the deal. You can guarantee that that's the animal that you harvested that you get to eat and enjoy when you do it yourself.
All right, off to the cooler, and we're gonna let it chill overnight, and then we're gonna slice it up and taste it tomorrow. So looking forward to that.
Let's get the crackers. Let's get the mustard. Tomorrow, we're gonna sample the summer sausage.
All right, moment of truth time. 4 jalapeno cheese, 4 plain. They chilled in the cooler overnight. Now it's time for us to cross-section them. I think I have a pretty good idea that they're gonna be perfect.
I think so too. Which one are we starting with? The plain? I think we should start with the plain and then reveal the jalapeno and cheddar cheese. What do you think?
I agree.
Grab our trusty, you know it, Victorinox 6-inch knife. And so we're just gonna go ahead and we're just gonna cut it right down through the center. And we're gonna reveal how we did. I think we nailed it.
I knew we would.
Wow.
That's one of the great things about this, you know, throughout this whole process, we want you to have the confidence to do this very thing. And we know with the steps that we followed and the equipment that we used, which are accessible and available, you can turn out product just like this. Now, I know we're talking about protein extraction, we're talking about pH levels, we're talking about water activity. It's not really about that, guys. That's some of the science behind it. What it's about is just following those steps, and you're gonna get something that looks just like that. And we haven't even tasted this product yet. So
if you think about, you know, this video is all kind of done for cleaning out the freezer for preparation for next season. So if you had the trim in your freezer, you had the ground meat in your freezer, you didn't know what to do with it, imagine taking that product and turning it into this. So that's what it's all about.
Now we're gonna get the really visually appealing cheese and jalapeno.
You ready for this one?
I think so.
Here we go. Here's the reveal. Ha! Look at that.
Perfect.
High
So
temp.
obviously you see the cheese and the jalapeno, but we have those nice bits of fat through there, and we have no crumbling, no separation, and that's what we talk about. So that's gonna be a really nice texture and mouthfeel, which is so important. Obviously flavor and texture go hand in hand, so absolute perfect outcome. And once again, we use the Traeger pellet smoker. We have a commercial type oven. We can do up to 280 pounds of this at one time in our commercial oven, but it's not about that. It's about you at home being able to get the exact same equipment that we have, take the knowledge that in the steps that we showed you, and produce this very product at home.
Ready for a sample?
I'm ready to taste it.
So we're gonna go with the plain first. And this casing, keep in mind that it is, you are able to remove it. So if you just make a little slice in the corner of the casing, you can take this and you can just start to peel it off like that. So you don't want to leave it on there for your guests to have to peel off each individual slice. So you can just peel the casing off like that. Beautiful definition in that summer sausage. So let's just go ahead and slice a few pieces. So first thing I notice is that Scott mentioned it before, but it's not falling apart. Real nice definition.
And that's that protein extraction that binds everything together, because bear in mind, we didn't use any binders. There's a bunch of different stuff on the market, but we wanted this to be more of a clean ingredient product, so without the use of binders. And really this stuff's no sugar too, because we didn't use any, maybe a tiny bit of dextrose in the
smoke powder,
but that's it. So
give her a try.
Oh, that's perfect.
It's got that classic summer sausage tang, that smoke flavor right off the bat.
You get tang right at the top. We get the tang, and then there's the smoke flavor behind it. Then you get those classic summer sausage flavors coming in with the salt, the pepper, and then it even kind of finishes with a little bit more of that tang finish. No single person will be disappointed with that.
We tried the plain. Now let's try the high temp cheddar cheese with jalapeños. I have a feeling I know which one's it's going to be my favorite.
Mine too.
So you can see the cheese sprinkled throughout with the jalapeños. So this is where it's important to use that high temp cheddar cheese, or high temp cheese in general, because if you don't use the high temp cheese, what will happen is it will melt during the process, and it'll sort of run through the meat. You won't get that real nice definition in the cheese like you see here.
Now the cheese will add even more favorable texture. We know that from experience. So here we go. Nice and smooth.
Yeah. I love the bite. The jalapeno bite with the creaminess of the cheese.
Yeah, so that's interesting. Same flavors as the plain, but you get that little bit smoother texture, and then the jalapenos come in about midway through, and then they just kind of warm up and leave you with a really nice finish.
So if you remember earlier in the video, we talked about that meat, how it turned slightly brown, and we talked about the cure and the nitrates and how they were working in the meat. Now you can see after the smoking process that real nice cherry red. So if you take a product like this, you vacuum seal it, easily 30 days in the refrigerator, vacuum sealed, if not longer. Freezer, vacuum seal it, you're good for up to a couple years. So rather than see that product lie around in the bottom of your chest freezer, you know it's gonna get freezer burnt, you know you're gonna throw it away, make something like this. Go out, grab the meat equipment. We're gonna throw a link in. These guys, this equipment is phenomenal. We've used it, we love it, we're gonna stand behind it throughout the whole process. You know, there's nothing we would change. Make that initial investment. We keep talking about that. Yes, there's some upfront costs, but if you went to a local processor and you had this made, it's gonna, you know, over time, it's gonna add up. The other thing is if you went somewhere and you bought this, you know, a few times of doing that, you could have the equipment. So make that investment, spend some time with your family, spend some time with your friends, get together, make some sausage. So I think now, Scott, what we need to do is we need to get some of this vacuum sealed up so we can show, we showed the process, now let's show the preservation.
Yeah, so we're gonna portion it up, and these make great gifts. So we'll usually portion them
holidays
in about,
roll around.
Yeah, about 4-inch, whatever. But we're going to be using the meat chamber vacuum, and we're going to vacuum seal it up because, like Seth mentioned, it's one of the best ways to preserve it. It's really nice to present it to somebody that way. You're not handing them a Ziploc bag. You're handing them a nice vacuum sealed pouch. So we'll portion it out, get it vacuum sealed, pass it out to family and friends. Football's right around the corner. These make great tailgating dishes, and you're going to impress anybody when you make it with this.
Speaking of family and friends, I guarantee you they will not know this is wild game. It's not gamey. You can't pick that up at all. So everybody's going to be able to enjoy it.
All right, so what's often overlooked and underappreciated is the final packaging or the preservation. You cannot beat vacuum sealing. Vacuum sealing removes the oxygen from the package, and we're left with a nearly perfectly preserved product. And then, like I mentioned, it shows really well. So I'm gonna be using the meat chamber vac. I've got bags here that come in either a 10 by 12, an 8 by 12, or a 6 by 10, which is great because I can do a single one of these summer sausage pieces if I'm, maybe I'm a little stingy and I only want to give one out at a time, or I can do 2 of these in one of these. So you have a bunch of different sizes here, or if you really like somebody, you can use one of the 10 by 12s and you can really fill it up. So the great thing about a vacuum sealer like this, you can put your package in. Want to make sure you spread it evenly across the seal bar. Now this one has different settings. In this case, I've got my vac time set for 30 seconds and my seal time for 3. It's going to start vacuum sealing automatically when I shut the lid, put the safety latch in place, and we count it down. All right, look at that. Better than store-bought. We can take these now, like Seth mentioned, minimum of 30 days in your refrigerator. You can carry them around if you're gonna be on the run. We talked about the fact that we're not measuring pH or water activity to find out if this is truly shelf stable. However, we know from experience you're gonna take it to a picnic, on a trip, whatever. It doesn't have to be 100% refrigerated all the time, or back into your freezer it goes. We typically like to seal them up like this and hand them out that way, and people can slice them whatever thickness that they like. Of course, you can use a meat slicer or hand slice them ahead of time, shingle them out like that. Makes a great party tray. So I'm gonna continue working, get this stuff sealed up so it's ready to go, and that about wraps up our video.
There it is. Who's got the mustard and the crackers? Because we've got the summer sausage. All vacuum sealed to perfection.
So we want to remind you guys, if you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. Follow us on all of our media platforms, not just YouTube, also Facebook, for almost daily stories and updates. We're on Instagram. We want to thank you for following the Bearded Butchers. We hope you enjoyed this video, and we look forward to many more videos to come in the future.
That's absolutely right. Hunting season's right around the corner. Stay safe, start shooting those bows, get accurate. Remember, it's all about faith, family, and food. Until next time, see ya.